Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys are all doing well, and today we're back with an Empire vs. Dark Elf showdown. It's going to be Marcus Wolfhart, the Huntsman, hunting some very scary prey here in the form of Malekith, and I can't remember, but I think Malekith is indeed on his Velociraptor. So now as we load into the game here, I am going to be taking a defensive position up here on the hill. So we have Flagellants and Sigmar Sons in the front line, and normally in this matchup, kind of the more meta pick these days is to mix in a couple Blackheart Corsairs, which is very smart. With 80 armor and pretty good combat stats and a bonus versus infantry, they trade super efficiently against pretty much any state trooper, and also will do very well against Flagellants and Sigmar Sons. So I really like that pick over there from Hero of Rome. But nonetheless, with a build like this, which is relatively handgunner dependent, I have two handgunners, I have a Hellblaster volley gun, many things which are a little bit squishy back here. I wanted to have troops in the front line, which even if they don't win their frontline fights, they're going to hold and buy time for your other troops to actually win the battle. So that is it. Couple spearmen on the flanks. As far as my cav core goes, I do have Demogryph Knights with lances, which I actually like quite a bit in this matchup. Oftentimes you are facing off against, let's say, Dark Rider repeater crossbows. Having the shields on them really does save you quite a bit. And honestly, they still have good AP, a nice charge bonus, and trade really efficiently with the Cold Knights, even without the halberds. So yeah, Demogryph Knights with lances. We've got two of those, some spears in the back, and one unit of, I believe, Empire Knights. Marcus Wolfhart for the net, and a Jade Wizard here with Lore of Life. Because if you are going with demis or any elite Empire cav, you typically do want to bring some, form of healing. So for the Dark Elf army here, Hero of Rome, he's got repeater crossbows, Coldland Knights, spears, Corsairs into the sunset, and it is going to be Malekith on his Velociraptor. So in total, 3 Coldland Knights, which are always pretty effective here. From a cost perspective, I haven't really seen them trade head-to-head with demis in quite some time, but I'm sure they do fine, and they really out-trade Empire Knights and can do well against Knights of the Blazing Sun. So I like this pick. He does also have the Bolt Fiends in the back as a one-off here, just a surprise Dark Shard, and that is it. So here on the flanks, a little bit of skirmishing going down. The repeater crossbows do come in, but they're met with a holy hellfire here of handgunner fire, and immediately we are able to pick off 3 models, which certainly feels quite good. Marcus Wolfhart going to be trying to snipe some Cold One Knights as well. You can see he's lined up his bow and is dropping some good shots, and as far as the Hellblaster volley gun goes, I believe it's shooting into the blob of Cold One Knights here and should be able to kill quite a few models. Each of those Hellblaster shots typically does some really devastating damage. So Cold One Knights coming in over here, they do get caught in a net of not Endertalk, net of Hunter's Snare of Marcus, and that's going to buy time for the Spearmen to charge in, so the Spearmen move in, and then the Empire Knights going to couch those lances, charge through the very loose ranks there, and we get some really, really good damage. So those Cold One Knights probably going to be on their way out. Now on the front line, you can see Blackheart Corsairs immediately getting a little bit of an edge against those Flagellants. The armor really does hold up quite well there, and the Sigmar Sons should be able to beat the Bleak Swords no problem, but we are going to have Corsairs on the other side trading into my Flagellants, so we'll see how that goes. Demogryph Knights with lances, I kind of figured I would be losing this frontline fight here, so I need to get a little bit of a punching support to give me the edge and allow my Flagellants to win. So the demis are going to couch those lances, and they're going to get some huge armor-piercing damage. Demogryph Knights with lances do hit really hard, and you can see a single charge there buckles the Blackheart Corsairs and sends them kind of running to the hills. Now on this flank here, we do have Empire Knights trying to screen out the repeater crossbows, which are trying to get in range of the demis, and now that we have broken that position, I can get these Flagellants, pile them in the back of the Dread Spears, and generally get some pretty good value. Some more Cold One Knights trying to find a little bit of a gap to get through, but the demis with lances are going to be rushing in to meet them, and the spearmen are going to be trying to form ranks to close that gap. But unfortunately, I can't be everywhere at once here, and you can see that the Cold One Knights, some of them probably will get through. Repeater crossbows in the back now ripping, shots into my Hellblaster, and I can't really do a whole lot against that. Granted, we have gotten some devastating damage here in this game and do pull ahead, but with the Hellblaster volley gun getting knocked offline here, and also my handguns being compromised here, and Malekith just dropping all sorts of witchcraft, the Witch King. Looks like he must have gotten stunned or something, but he's actually going for a Soul Stealer, which is a good play as well. But yeah, the Dark Elves could certainly come back in this game. That's the thing, with Empire, oftentimes if you go for powder builds, you do go ahead quite a bit early in the game, but it can waver, especially if they compromise your gun positions here. So Demogryph Knights now in sustained combat here with the Cold One Knights, and I do have the support of the Sigmar Sons, so we should win that fight quite handedly here. And on this side, my poor Demi's getting an overcasted regrowth, pulling back. Malekith was there. We'd had some Blackheart Corsair handbows kind of peppering them down, and it was causing a lot of problems. On top of that, I do drop a Hunter's Snare to try and get the cavalry off my handgunners. I tried to last samurai them on the approach, but they still did kind of shut me down. But for the most part, the handgunners, I think, have all paid for themselves here at this point. Malekith with another big, juicy Soul Stealer. It hits these demis, and it also hits my Empire Knights and does some pretty good HP damage. And, Malekith's pretty scary for sure. He's a really good duelist on his little Velociraptor here. 81 melee attack with the Murderous Prowess active, and 55 melee defense. So he can do some work for sure. My infantry looking a little bit light. I have some Flagellants and Spearmen fighting here. Some Empire Knights trying to come in, but unfortunately these Velociraptor Knights are going to be able to probably deal with my handgunners here, or at least break them. Hard to say. And Marcus is also getting punted by Malekith, so suddenly, you know, a lot of squishy elements here in my army are in a little bit of trouble. Marcus trying to lock up that focus shot there, but once again gets knocked over by Malekith. Over and over we go once again here into the deep. But the Demis with Lances out trading the Coldwood Knights, who are very tattered. There are some Dread Spears coming in, and also my opponent here getting the Dark Riders with repeater crossbows finally in a pretty good position. Most of the game they were relatively inefficient in terms of their positioning, but finally they've gotten a really juicy one here where they can just sit and poke at my Demis. And on that note, I'm like, screw that shit, I'm out of here. And I send the Jade Wizard in to fight Malekith, while the Demis with Lances here for the rest of my army going to be trying to sweep up in the backfield. So they're chasing down the Corsair Handbows, and from here we'll be bouncing over and going after the Bolt Fiends, the Dark Shards with shields, because they pack a serious punch. Now back here in the blob fight, I feel like we've had a million Soul Stealers this game, but here comes another one. And you can see Marcus Solfar getting the business here from Malekith, trying to get away. But he is ripping some decent shots here while he's running, and is returning the damage a little bit. But Malekith probably will be able to kill him in that situation. However, we have 18 Demogryph Knights with Lances here. We have the Hunter Snare, so we drop that bad boy here on Malekith. We turn around, and he winds up the focus shot right in his face. Marcus, if you miss this, I swear we're done. No longer be friends. Here it comes, right in the face, and doing some decent damage against Malekith there. And from here, we pull back to our Demis with Lances. I believe the other unit still kind of sweeping out here, although it looks like it might have gotten shut down. Yeah, he was able to shut that down with his Corsairs and Dark Shards. But we have Malekith in our clutches here, and you can see that the Demogryph Knights able to pile in with a Lance. Marcus still ripping some good shots. Demis, of course, have really good mass and are probably one of my favorite units in the entire game, Demogryph Knights in general. Not only from a gameplay perspective, but I really just like the aesthetic of the Demogryph Knights. I'm currently painting a unit of them in tabletop, which I guess the basic scheme here is pretty cool in these guys. The silver armor. My guys have a black armor with a really like bright, kind of shiny gold on them. Malekith getting a little bit low, which is thankfully helping us finally close out this game. I felt like in the beginning of the game, I was like, oh, this is going to be over quick, but it ended up being a relatively long, grindy 5-minute battle, and he almost came back, you know, when he compromised my Hellblaster, my guns. Marcus was in a little bit of trouble, but thankfully the Demis had done enough damage throughout the game, and the Hellblaster obviously probably did okay too. Yeah, 1,000 value on that bad boy. 623, these are the ones that kind of overextended. These ones got 1,600 though, which is really good. Empire Knights were just roadblocks. 1-3-3-7, baby, on those handgunners. That guy's not messing around. 844 on these guys, and Marcus got 1,800s. That's good. You know, I like Marcus. I don't know. I'm a little bit on the fence about using Marcus against rush factions. I mean, he does give you a net, I guess. I have been using him against Norska forever. But yeah, it was a little bit scary when I started to get hunted down by Malekith, who got 2,600 value, which was pretty crazy, and that was pretty much all in the Soul Stealers. Corsairs, you know, obviously got hammered by the Demis, so they didn't really get a chance to shine. As far as the rest of the army goes, Coldwood Knights, yeah, pretty decent across the board. Repeater Crossbows are hands down probably the best unit on the roster. Repeater Crossbows, Scourge Runners, those are like the hard carries on the roster. But yeah, it was a good game. Well played here over Rome. We played a couple games that day, so you'll be seeing some more. And that is it for now. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this Empire versus Dark Elf showdown. I certainly did. Trying to work on my Empire for sure. They've been my go-to faction in tournaments, but I've been I usually have them as my first pick. I'll like pick Empire and ban Dwarves and Vampire counts, but I've been having some tough matchups with them and losing to Greenskins quite a bit actually. I honestly think Greenskins, Skaven, I'd have to say, but I think I can comfortably say that Greenskins and Skaven are probably two of the best factions in the entire game. Really, really strong, and yeah, I've been struggling against Greenskins. So that's another one you guys will be seeing a lot of, because I am going to be practicing that with a couple builds, but yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Well played here over Rome, and we will see you guys next time. Take care, my friends.